Hello everyone, and welcome back to our channel. Today we're diving into a story that has stirred up South African politics in ways you might not expect. John Steenhuisen, the leader of the Democratic Alliance, has made waves with comments questioning the MK party's understanding of Umkhonto we Sizwe's history. Yes, the very same MK that was the ANC's military wing during the struggle against apartheid. Now, if you're expecting another routine political squabble, hold on to your hats, because this conversation goes deeper than a simple political jab. Steenhuisen recently made it clear that understanding the liberation struggle is critical, not just for politicians, but for the whole country. According to him, some MK party members have exaggerated the group's role in the anti-apartheid fight, romanticizing their actions without acknowledging the full complexity of that period. He didn't mince words. He argued that Umkhonto we Sizwe was more than a militant organization, it was a reaction to systemic violence, oppression, and injustice. And while everyone respects the sacrifices made by freedom fighters, Steenhuisen wants South Africans, especially the younger generation, to see the full picture, the victories, the defeats, and yes, the mistakes too. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Steenhuisen's comments are not just history lessons, they're also a political statement. By challenging how MK's history is portrayed, he's essentially opening a debate on memory, identity, and political legitimacy in South Africa today. The ANC and MK party have historically relied on the legacy of the armed struggle to maintain political influence and moral authority. Steenhuisen is suggesting that perhaps the story shouldn't be taken at face value anymore. And that, my friends, is guaranteed to ruffle some feathers. Political analysts are already weighing in. They say this could spark a broader discussion among young South Africans, who are showing a growing interest in the country's history and heritage. With social media, documentaries, and increased access to archival material, the younger generation isn't content to just accept what's been handed down, they want context, nuance, and truth. Steenhuisen's remarks tap into that curiosity. He's pushing for a version of history that is responsible, critical, and inclusive of multiple perspectives. But let's pause for a moment. The timing of these comments is key. South African politics is incredibly polarized right now. ANC, DA, and other parties are jockeying for position, not just in parliament, but in public perception. Steenhuisen's critique comes at a time when the DA is trying to present itself as a party of reason, accountability, and progress. By questioning the MK party's portrayal of the liberation struggle, he's positioning the DA as a party that values truth over nostalgia, and careful analysis over blind loyalty. Of course, this will not sit well with the MK party or its supporters, who may see this as an attack on their heritage. So what does this mean for political relations? At this stage, the MK party hasn't officially responded. But one can imagine the back and forth in private corridors, the heated debates in party offices, and maybe even a few fiery op-eds in local newspapers. This confrontation highlights an ongoing struggle in post-apartheid South Africa. How do we remember the past responsibly? How do we honor heroes without turning history into mythology? And how do political parties navigate this delicate terrain without alienating the electorate? Steenhuisen also made an important point about context. The liberation struggle was not black and white. There were victories, yes, but also setbacks, moral dilemmas, and difficult choices. He urged South Africans to understand that Umkhonto we Sizwe's history should not be oversimplified or used solely for political advantage. By framing it in this way, he's not diminishing the sacrifices made by freedom fighters, but rather calling for honesty and reflection. This is a conversation that might seem academic on the surface, but in a country where history and politics are deeply intertwined, it has very real implications. And let's not forget the human element. Steenhuisen's comments come at a time when many South Africans are still dealing with the legacies of apartheid, social inequalities, economic disparities, and ongoing racial tensions. His call for nuanced discussion is, in a sense, a call for maturity in political discourse. It's a reminder that history isn't just about dates and battles, it's about people, their struggles, and the choices they made under extraordinary circumstances. Now, I have to admit, this story also has a touch of irony and humor. Imagine a DA leader lecturing the MK party on understanding its own history. It's like a chef critiquing someone else's recipe for the dish they invented. But humor aside, Steenhuisen is using this moment strategically. He's drawing attention to the importance of accountability, not just in politics, but in historical memory. He's challenging all of us to question narratives, to look deeper, and to engage critically with the past. Political scientists suggest that Steenhuisen's remarks could ignite debates in schools, universities, and public forums. Young people who grew up hearing simplified versions of the liberation struggle might now be inspired to dig deeper, ask questions, and even challenge the stories they've always been told. In other words, this conversation could shape how the next generation understands South African history, and that's no small thing. So what should viewers take away from all of this? First, the importance of questioning narratives, even those that feel sacred. Second, the idea that politics and history are inseparable in South Africa, and understanding one requires understanding the other. And third, that engagement matters, your voice, your questions, your curiosity are part of shaping the future of how we remember the past. And here's a little call to action: if you found this discussion enlightening, or even if you just enjoyed the drama, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into South African politics, and drop a comment below with your thoughts. Do you agree with Steenhuisen that the MK party has over-romanticized its history? Or do you think he's out of line? Let's get the conversation going in a respectful way, because dialogue is exactly what he's calling for. In closing, Steenhuisen's remarks are more than just political commentary, they're an invitation. An invitation to think critically, to examine history responsibly, and to engage with the stories that shape our nation. It's a reminder that South Africa's past is complex, messy, and full of lessons that are still relevant today. See you next time.